1. For context, I'm 5 feet tall, curvy, and was 26 at the time of the events. New Year's Eve 2017. It was about 9 p.m. and I was on my way to a DIY punk gig in North London with my boyfriend and about 5 friends. Our ages ranged from 18 to 28. We were all comfortably drunk by this point, not enough to not be in control of our faculties, but enough to be a bit overconfident and giggly. We were walking the 10-minute journey from the tube station to the venue, straight down a busy high street, laughing and joking and shouting, "Happy New Year!" to passers-by, who were equally drunk and shouting back. We were all in a great mood. A man was walking towards us on the pavement, going in the direction we just came from. I can't remember if we interacted with him, maybe we wished him Happy New Year. He was tall, relatively slim, definitely drunk and a bit unkempt. But then, as a group of punks on our way to a New Year's Eve gig, we were also drunk and a bit unkempt. Everyone around us was fairly drunk. It was nothing to concern us. Our guards were also down a little. Almost straight away he locked eyes with me and stopped in his tracks. Staring, he exclaims, "Oh my God, you're beautiful!" Normally I'd have ignored this and him, but hey, it's New Year's Eve. Everyone is in high spirits and feeling good vibes. So I laugh and thank him. But before I know it, the man has suddenly got hold of my shoulders and is staring me in the face and saying, "You're so beautiful." Almost straight away my friends and boyfriend are telling him to let me go. My first instinct was to defuse the situation. As a woman, and a short woman, my only real defense against creeps is either run or talk them out of it calmly. I try to tell my friends to shush, they're making him agitated. I'm trying to thank him for his kind words and could he let go of me? My friends are getting angrier and angrier, beginning to shout at him, and he's getting more agitated and tightening his grip. I'm shouting at them, trying to get everyone to calm the fuck down because I'm scared now. This man is seriously not letting go, and he's much bigger than me. It doesn't help we've all been at the booze, but I think we're all sobering up pretty quickly. I'm not exactly sure what happened next and how. Yay alcohol. But suddenly he's behind me and has locked both arms around my head and neck in a kind of headlock. He's screaming, "I'm not fucking letting go of her! I'm not fucking letting go of her! She's coming with me!" Before I even have a chance to process this and be terrified, a force knocks us sideways. He lets go and I break free, and I immediately power walk and jog away down the street. After about 5 seconds, the reality of what just happened hits me, and I burst into tears. Some of my friends are comforting me. I vaguely remember looking behind me and seeing my boyfriend and 2 of my male friends laying into the guy. I need to keep moving, I'm too shaken up and scared to stay still. I immediately power walk down the street, still crying and shaking. After about a minute, maybe less, a few of my friends are with me and explain that as soon as the man locked his arms around me, my boyfriend, who is only about 5'5", punched him very hard in the head and continued to beat him. He was soon joined by my male friends. They also tell me that at this point a car pulls up and someone shouts, "Leave him alone." But my friends ran over and explained what happened and the car drove off. This detail always makes me laugh. Clearly the driver and passenger thought, "Oh, wow, okay, yeah, fuck that guy." But at this point my boyfriend and the rest of my friends had all caught up with me. Once they'd sufficiently subdued the guy, my boyfriend informed me he'd punched the guy's head off the pavement. They told him in no uncertain terms to fuck off and not come back, and he got up and left. Shortly after we got to the venue, and one of my friends appeared with some beers and a pack of cigarettes, both of which I really needed. I sat outside with my boyfriend and friends and calmed down, and told more of my friends at the venue what had happened. When I described him, one of my friends already at the venue realized the same guy had been harassing some teenage girls earlier in the night, and generally behaving like a disgusting weirdo. I thanked my friends and my boyfriend profusely. My boyfriend said he barely thought about it. As soon as he saw the guy lock his arms, his protective instinct kicked in. He realized he had the guy's blood on his hands and was quite proud of himself. Man, in there I'd done protected my woman. But he did. And it scares me shitless to think about what would have happened to me had I been walking down this busy, well-lit street at night, on my own. We ended up having a great New Year's Eve, and I soon forgot about it. I've often thought about how differently it would have played out if my friends hadn't reacted so aggressively straight away. If I could calmly have talked him out of letting go of me. But I realized that as soon as he locked his arms around me and started screaming, that was the sign that no, this guy was never going to be calmly talked out of anything. Obviously, I didn't know that at first, when I tried to defuse the situation. I can only be thankful my brilliant boyfriend and friends were there to get him off me. So crazy New Year's Eve snatcher, please, let's never meet again. 2. This is going back years now, to when I first got my apartment. Like many people's first apartments, it wasn't the greatest. Not in location, nor in quality. But it was mine, and it was affordable to my paltry entry-level salary. It was a third-floor apartment with slanted ceilings and poor quality. Well, everything. The front door into the entryway didn't really lock well. Basically, when it was locked, you could kick it fairly softly and it would just open. Which was super convenient for taking in groceries or when your hands were full. But was not the most secure thing in the world. And the door to my apartment was one of those super thin inside doors that a toddler could punch through. Not one of those steel security doors that most places have. There was no banister on my third-floor landing, so if you didn't turn to get onto the stairs, you'd just fall. Yeah, it was kinda awful. Upon entering the apartment, you'd walk into the living room. Then there was a small hallway and the kitchen. Off the kitchen to the right was my room. From the doorway of my room, you could see into both the living room and the kitchen. My roommate wasn't home, and I was in my room playing Fallout 3 when I heard the front door downstairs being kicked in. Okay. Everyone in the building knew you could do that, so I figured one of my neighbors was home. Then came the knocking on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I just kind of paused the game and waited for them to leave. Soon the knocking turned into banging, louder and louder. At this point, I was definitely in WTF mode. Then I heard the door to my apartment swing open. Hard. I jumped up and swung open the door to my room quickly, and walked out into the kitchen. Whoa, you scared me! There was a man I'd never seen before standing there. He had scraggly hair, glassy eyes, and there was snot running down from his nose. I scared you? I said. You're in my apartment. What are you doing in my apartment? Where's John? He said. It was at this point I realized he was holding a bolster, one of those things that secures railings, from the front porch downstairs that he must have ripped out. It still had the nails sticking out of it. I had some martial arts training when I was younger, so that starts spinning up in my brain at this point. Controlling the space, closing space, lining up attackers, etc. I thought about the lack of a banister outside my third-floor apartment building. So in closing space, I was hoping he would back up a bit toward the door, closer to that more vulnerable position. If it went well, he would at least be closer to the door, and if it didn't, I had hoped I would be able to kick him hard enough that he'd fall backwards off the landing. I wasn't totally confident I'd be able to pull it off, but it was the best I had at this point. There was no way police would get here in under a second, even if I had my phone in my hand. And that's the amount of time it would have taken to close the space. There's no John here. Now get out of my apartment, I said, closing space and putting my hands up, slowly in a kind of, I don't want any trouble sort of gesture. Of course, my heart is beating up out of my throat at this point. Yo, John, he says. There is no John here, please leave, I said again, taking another step toward him. What about downstairs? Is John downstairs? He said. No, there's no John downstairs, now please get out of my apartment, I said. I had no idea if there was a John downstairs, but I did know that there was a mother and two small kids that lived down there. I did not want to send this guy down there to harass them.
What about on the first floor?
He said. I don't know the people on the first floor. Just get out of my apartment, I said again.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
he said as he shuffled out. He didn't check the first or second floor, but he did start walking down the street with his nail board yelling,
Yo, John!
I'm sure John would be very willing to come out and meet a yelling maniac with a nail board. This was truly one of the most odd and scary situations I've found myself in, especially when he said I had scared him when I came out of my room, and that he just kind of left and apologized afterwards. It definitely could have gone much worse, and I'm very glad it ended the way it did. So, weirdly polite brute with a nail board who was probably drugged up, let's not meet again. 3. This story has a lot of build-up. So I met this friend online the summer before my junior year of high school. I was 16. His name was Flip. We clicked pretty instantly. Our senses of humor matched up, and I felt like we were really good friends. He was a guy, I was a girl, but I never really held romantic feelings. Also, I was in a relationship. When I was 16, he was 19. I could tell he had romantic feelings, and he let me know about 6 months into our friendship that he loved me. We didn't really have a stable friendship, as he flipped out a lot and would go on extended amounts of time without talking to me. He told me it was because he couldn't bear to talk to me, knowing we can't be together because I was dating someone. But I know now that it was more of a control thing, and he wanted to stop talking to me to make me feel like I'm missing something. He really hated women, really, really disliked women, and felt like most are just whores. He told me he felt like I was different, and that I was the only true woman he's ever met. Really red flag shit. I was young and didn't really think much of it. Our friendship was only online, iMessaging and FaceTiming. Now, when he went on these tangents where he would abruptly stop talking to me, he would go on Twitter and make offensive, demonizing tweets about me to people, like awful stuff. When he came back, I just ignored that stuff because he would go back to being funny and nice. I'm building up to our IRL meeting, hang in there with me. So he also had a habit of lashing out at people, taking revenge on people, and just making people feel like shit for fun, another red flag. But I thought I was special and that he really cared about me, and would never do anything like that to me. I remember leading up to my 18th birthday, him being 21 now, he said to me, "When you're 18, you're sending me nudes. You don't get to say no." I brushed it off because I knew I wouldn't. But yeah, notice there's just this element of him wanting to dominate. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later, I'm now 18, freshman in college. In October I broke up with my boyfriend, same guy as age 16, and Flip took that as an opportunity. He would tell me he couldn't bear not seeing me, and that basically we have to meet or it's all over. Now I didn't really have romantic feelings for him. My love for him was platonic, but I figured, like, I'll try the romance. I'll try to love him romantically, I couldn't lose him. So I impulsively bought a plane ticket to where he lives in December. My parents had no idea, and to this day still don't. I was going to go away on a Friday, come back on a Monday. The college I go to school in is in a city with an airport, so it was easy to just Uber to the airport. This romance that I am trying to project feels real, and I genuinely felt like I loved him, romantically. I was finally going to meet the guy I loved. Now, leading up to the flight about 1 to 2 weeks before, I started getting cold feet. I was questioning the legitimacy of my feelings, and started getting on with a guy in a neighboring uni. I started catching feelings for him, and kissed him a day before my flight. At that point, I had already decided I didn't want to pursue Flip romantically, and I figured, hey, we've been friends for 2 years. When I get there, I'll tell him I only want to stay friends. Yeah, he'll be upset, but I'm sure our friendship is worth more than that, and we'll be able to have a nice, enjoyable time together. How naive I was. I decided to go on the trip anyway, thinking that maybe seeing him would reignite that fire. Upon arrival, I realized that I did not love him and I was no longer attracted to him. Regardless though, he was a close friend of mine, for a very long time. And whether I felt a romantic connection or not, I wanted to meet him for the sake of meeting him. Just how I would want to meet any internet friend. So it's time for the flight. It's very early. I remember sitting on the plane contemplating walking out. I really just wanted to leave and not return. I should have listened to my gut. I arrive and I go outside of the terminal. I see him sitting in his car, just staring at me. Like a very malicious, piercing stare. After a few moments he gets out of the car. He looks different. It's strange because we have FaceTimed and I have seen pictures of him, but he just looks different. Kind of creepier. We hug and sit in the car. It's awkward. I feel awkward. We make small talk and awkward jokes, and in that moment I wanted to be back in my dorm. We go back to his apartment, and we go up to his room. We smoke some weed, and I lay down on his bed to sleep. When I wake up, he's spooning me and trying to fondle me. I take his hands off and tell him to stop. Then I sit up and basically unload about how I don't want him romantically, only as a friend. He just started crying and begging me to tell him I love him. I tell him I can't do that. He then stands up, drops crying, goes to the bathroom, and starts lighting stuff on fire. It smells like burning paper in the bedroom now. He comes out normally and just sits on his computer and plays games without talking to me. Now the rest of the trip is just like a combination of him being kind and normal to him being completely evil. Here's some of the things he's done and said throughout the 3 days. He made jokes about me dying. Would pretend to hit me and lunge at me and get close enough and watch as I flinched. Told me he almost sent a snap of me to my mom with the geotag of his town, so that I would get in trouble. Told me he almost made me sleep in the car one night. Told me that one night while I was sleeping he walked over to me and started farting on me. This one's just fucking nasty. Kept telling me to shut the fuck up when I would speak or ask questions. Did it multiple times in front of his roommates too. He was trying to feel me up in bed, and I kept pushing his hands away, and he would keep trying to say things like, "I know you want it, you're just holding back." Was calling me an idiot when I would ask questions. Served me spaghetti and told me he purposely used the moldy spaghetti sauce, hoping that I would get sick. Told me he was gonna make me miss my flight home. Said he was planning to drive in the opposite direction of the airport, and dropping me off in the middle of nowhere. So I basically kept my cool. And when he would tell me these things I would nod and agree and laugh with him. I was scared shitless. And I wanted nothing more than to leave. So I kinda kept it cool and I spent my time trying not to upset him. Monday rolls around, and my flight isn't until 8 p.m. Around 11 a.m. he goes downstairs to leave. And in that time I pack my bag and leave without him knowing. My plan of action is to run to the nearest shopping plaza and Uber to the airport from there. I wasn't about to Uber from his house. I'm almost to the end of the street, feeling free, when I feel 2 arms come up from behind and wrap around me. He's hugging me, mumbles something into my ear and then turns around and dead-on sprints back down the street to his apartment. I ran to the shopping plaza, called an Uber and got in it. I felt so much relief in that moment. I felt like I was free. I waited at the airport with nothing to do for 8 hours, but it was better than being in there. I look back and I feel like an idiot. I should have gone to a hotel, and I should have probably left, but I'm a broke college kid, and I was already scared shitless being here without my parents' knowledge. After I left, I blocked him on every social media outlet I have, including LinkedIn. He still has tried to contact me regularly for 4 months. But luckily I never told him my address or anything. So online friend of 2 years. Let's not meet again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 323. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I just want to say thanks to everybody who joined me for my little sleepy stream on Saturday. You helped keep me awake long enough so that when I eventually went to bed, I got a proper sleep at a reasonable time. let's see if I can keep that going and try to get to bed at a reasonable time tonight. And with that, I think I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.